The rain came down in sheets that afternoon, heavy enough to blur the city into a smear of gray and silver. People rushed under awnings and darted into stores, clutching their coats tight and muttering about the weather. Cars splashed through puddles, their headlights glowing faintly through the curtain of water. In the middle of the chaos, a young woman named Clara stood at the edge of a bus stop, drenched from head to toe. Her thin cardigan was no match for the storm, and her hair clung to her face as the rain poured relentlessly. Clara worked at a small bookstore 3 blocks away. She had stayed late to finish arranging a display for the new poetry collection the owner wanted ready for morning. By the time she looked up, the sun was gone, and the storm clouds had rolled in like a warning she hadn't heard. Her umbrella, her only umbrella, had broken 2 days earlier, the spoke snapped in the wind, and she hadn't had the money to replace it. Rent was due, groceries were running low, and she had promised herself she wouldn't dip into the small envelope she'd been saving for her younger brother's medicine. So now she stood in the rain, waiting for a bus that seemed determined not to come. The evening had turned cold, and every drop of rain stung against her skin. Around her, others had huddled under umbrellas or found cover inside nearby cafes, but Clara stayed where she was, afraid that if she moved, she'd miss the only bus that could take her home. "Some storm, huh?" The voice came from beside her, a warm voice, deep but kind. Clara turned and saw a man holding a large navy blue umbrella. He was maybe in his 30s, tall with gentle eyes and a face that looked familiar in that comforting way strangers sometimes do. He wore a brown coat that had seen better days but looked clean and well cared for. "Yeah," Clara said, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. It came out of nowhere. He glanced up at the sky. "They said there'd be light showers. I think the weather lied." That made Clara laugh, a soft sound she didn't expect. It felt strange, laughing in the middle of misery. "Here," he said, shifting his umbrella slightly so it covered both of them. "No sense in both of us getting soaked." "Oh, no, that's okay," she said quickly. "You'll get wet." "I'm already half-drenched," he said with a shrug. "Might as well make it worth it." Clara hesitated for only a second before stepping closer. The warmth of the umbrella's shelter felt like a small miracle. For the first time in hours, she wasn't shivering. "I'm Mark," he said. "You work at the bookstore on Maple, don't you?" Clara blinked in surprise. "Yeah, I do." "How did you?" He smiled. "I stop in sometimes. You helped me find a gift for my mom last month. The poetry book with the blue cover." "Oh," she said, remembering now. "You were the one looking for something with, what was it?" "Something that says what I can't," he finished, chuckling. "Yeah, that was me." She loved it, by the way. Clara smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I'm glad." They stood there for a while, talking about little things, the weather, the bookstore, the city. The rain kept falling, but somehow it felt softer under that shared umbrella. When the bus finally came into view, Clara almost didn't notice. As it slowed to a stop, Mark looked down at her. "This your bus?" "Yeah," she said reluctantly. He handed her the umbrella. "Here," he said. "Take it." She shook her head. "Oh no, I can't. You'll get drenched walking back." "I'm not far," he said. "Just 2 blocks that way. I'll be fine." "Really, I can't take your umbrella." He smiled, his eyes kind. "Consider it borrowed. You can bring it back to the bookstore when it's sunny again." Before she could protest, he gently placed the umbrella in her hands and stepped back into the rain. "Wait, what if I don't see you again?" she called. "You will," he said over his shoulder. "You work at my favorite bookstore." And with that, he was gone, swallowed by the rain. Clara climbed onto the bus, the umbrella clutched tightly in her hands. As she sat by the window, she watched him disappear down the street. Something about the moment stayed with her, the quiet generosity, the simplicity of a small kindness that felt so much bigger than it should have. The next morning, the rain was gone, leaving the city fresh and shining. Clara dried the umbrella carefully and decided she'd return it after her shift. She even thought about buying him a cup of coffee as a thank you, though she wasn't sure she could afford it. She wanted to try. But when she stopped by the small bakery across from the bookstore where he had said he worked, no one there knew anyone named Mark. The nearby buildings didn't help either. It was as if he had vanished. Days turned into a week, and then 2. Clara kept the umbrella by the door, waiting for the right time to return it. But Mark never appeared again. Winter arrived, bringing cold winds and early darkness. The bookstore stayed quiet most days, with only a few regulars dropping in for holiday gifts. Clara worked extra shifts to cover bills, but her brother's medicine costs had risen again, and she found herself skipping meals more often than not. Still, she kept that umbrella close, a reminder that kindness could still find her, even when life felt small and heavy. One night, just before closing, a young boy came into the store. He was maybe 10, wearing a faded jacket far too thin for the cold. His hair was damp from the sleet outside, and he looked nervous, clutching a crumpled note in his hand. "Hi there," Clara said gently. "Can I help you?" He nodded shyly and handed her the paper. She unfolded it. It read, "Please help my mom. She's sick, and we can't afford medicine. I'm sorry to bother you." There was no name, just shaky handwriting and a sense of desperation. Clara looked back at the boy, who was staring at the floor. "What's your name, sweetheart?" she asked softly. "Eli," he murmured. "Eli, where's your mom now?" "At home," he said. "She's lying down. She's been coughing a lot." Clara hesitated. She didn't have much, barely enough for her own needs, but something inside her wouldn't let her ignore him. "Wait here," she said, going to her purse. She took out the envelope she'd been saving, the one for her brother's next refill, and stared at it for a long moment. Her heart twisted. Then she took out half the money and handed it to him. "Take this," she said. "It's not much, but it should help." The boy's eyes widened. "Really?" She nodded. "Really? And here, take this too." She grabbed the navy blue umbrella from the corner. "It'll keep you dry." He took it carefully, as if it were made of glass. "Thank you," he whispered. When he left, Clara stood there for a while, feeling both heavy and strangely light. She didn't know if she'd done enough, but she hoped she had. A few days later, she caught a cold from walking home without an umbrella in the sleet. It turned into a fever, and she had to miss work for 2 days. When she finally returned, the bookstore felt quieter than usual. She was ringing up a customer when a man's voice made her look up. "I think this belongs to you." There, standing in front of her, was Mark. He looked the same as before, though his coat was dusted with snow this time. In his hand was the navy blue umbrella. Clara blinked in surprise. "You, how?" He smiled and handed it over. "A little boy named Eli brought it to me. Said it was from the lady at the bookstore who helped his mom. He said she told him kindness always comes back around." Clara's mouth fell open. "You know him?" Mark nodded. "He's my nephew. My sister's been sick for a while, but she's getting better now, thanks to the medicine. She told me about the money, but I didn't realize it was you until Eli mentioned the bookstore." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know. I just wanted to help." Mark smiled softly. "And you did. More than you know." He set the umbrella on the counter. "Seems like this umbrella gets around. I borrowed it once to help you, and you passed it on to help them. Guess it really is an umbrella of borrowed hope." Clara laughed through her tears. "I think it is." He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "How about I buy you coffee this time? Seems like we both owe each other something." She hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that." Over coffee at the small cafe across the street, they talked for hours. Mark told her about his sister, about how hard things had been, and how much her help had meant. Clara shared her own struggles, the long nights, the tight budgets, the quiet loneliness that kindness seemed to keep at bay. By the time they stepped outside, snow had begun to fall in soft, gentle flakes. Mark opened the navy blue umbrella and held it above them, smiling. "Guess it's back to doing its job," he said. "Yeah," Clara replied, smiling back. Keeping people warm, one storm at a time. They walked together down the quiet street, the umbrella sheltering them both. Months later, when spring returned, the umbrella hung by Clara's door again. Only now, she didn't think of it as just an umbrella. It had become a symbol of the way kindness traveled, from stranger to stranger, heart to heart, like rain that nourished the world before quietly fading away. And sometimes, when the sky grew dark and the rain began to fall, Clara would take it outside, hoping to lend it again, to someone who needed a little warmth, a little shelter, a little hope borrowed just long enough to believe in the sun again.